Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Justices, judges, and my friend from Brazil, visitors from SAARC, comrade-in-arms, colleagues, distinguished guests here, Assalamu alaikum. Let me really begin with the permission of the co-chair to felicitate Bangladesh for the excellence of the Asia Cup that they hosted. Rizwana is here. And this was an event that drew 4 countries into that competition, and if SAARC is about goodwill, I think the magnificence with which they conducted that tournament deserves special mention. So our gratitude to Bangladesh. I see Rizwana is here. And the second thing I would like to really mention here is that I wanted to acknowledge very humbly the comments made about me in the inaugural session by the Vice Chancellor and the respected Chief Justice of Pakistan. They give me great encouragement. For one who has spent about 37 years of one's life in the pursuit of this hobby and to introduce the subject to Pakistan, it's really a dream come true to me to see the abundance of acknowledgement of the legitimacy of what we have tried to do these past 37 years. So I thank you, Chief Justice, and thank you all. My story today begins with Stockholm. The year is 1972, and for the first time, the concern for resource management, environmental protection, as it was then called, surfaced globally. And it proliferated and mainstreamed into this magnificent conference that took place in Stockholm. That's the beginning of the internationalization of environmental protection. The host is Sweden, and Pakistan is there, India is there, most of the SAARC countries are there, and they decide as a common platform to approach environmental issues across state boundaries. Certain principles emerged, and the world woke up with a new passion, a new commitment, and a new orientation. And in the SAARC countries, where I want to relate that event to, the SAARC countries got to work. And the good news is then that in 7 out of the 8 SAARC countries, 7 countries prioritized environmental protection, prioritized resource management in their highest document, the constitution of those countries. So each of the 7 countries post-Stockholm, and that was the fallout of Stockholm, acknowledged environmental protection as a goal of national existence. Of these, Bhutan, if the Chief Justice is here, I'd like to acknowledge before him, it has the most dedicated commitment of all the constitutions in the region to environmental protection. It builds on the element of trust, natural resources being used in trust for present and future generations. And uniquely in the world, it has a constitutional provision, a constitutional imperative that the forest area of Bhutan shall never be less than 60%. So this is the frame of mind and the direction in which this region is moving. So I wanted to begin by saying that I am going to talk about environmental jurisprudence from Pakistan, and from that I'll weave out some lessons for the region. And I wanted to begin by giving center stage to the constitutions of those countries for environmental prioritization. And all the countries, without exception, exception coming, the host country had no commitment on the environment. The 73 Constitution, totally silent, and I think I see Mr. Zahid Hamid is here, is those amongst this country's fortunate ones who drafted and cleared and steered the 18th Amendment. And there was some hope that we will get this opportunity in the 18th Amendment to revise our national priorities, and just like we prioritized the right to a fair trial and the right to information, the hope for people like me was that we might squeeze in the right to environment and to raise it in the constitutional pedestal of this country. It did not happen. Well, that's the bad news. The good news is lots of it in the end, what Pakistan has been able to do. But all the SAARC region, to begin with, has made this commitment in the Constitution, except Pakistan, and most of them have framework laws, very comprehensive laws on the environment, which deal with not only the substantive issues of the environment, some of them going to the sectoral laws, but each of them sets up a national council, a high-powered council in most of these countries that sets policy on the environment, like Pakistan Environment Protection Council. It's the highest national body to articulate, to formulate policies on the environment. It has an implementational arm in the Pakistan Environmental Protection Agency. I see Asif Shuja here. He's led it as the Director General for all those years of the PIPA. And then we took it also at the provincial level, environmental protection agencies at the environmental level. So this is a pattern that most of the SAARC countries have followed. So you have the constitutional commitment, you have the framework laws, you have the environmental agencies, and at the end of the day, the year is 2012, and there are challenges. And the challenges are weak or no implementation. The challenges are poverty in the region. My colleague Adil Najam talked about $1 a day, $1 billion, $1.50 a day. And I think the most telling, the most unfortunate aspect of our human existence is the poverty level in the world. There is deforestation in the region. There is desertification in the region. There is loss of habitat in the region. There is the threat to ecosystems like the mangroves in Pakistan, the Indus mangroves, the Sundarbans in India and Bangladesh. And there's environmental degradation. And all this has really haunted implementation of the pristine articulation of environmental concerns. And the sad part is that while we recognize these problems in the region, I personally, and I hope I'm wrong, find a lack of political will in the region. I find a lack of resources in the region. I find a lack of the capability in the region to deal with the monumental issues that I think are around the corner. So that's the SAARC region, a brief background. Coming to Pakistan, the year is 1983. I have been privileged, I've been fortunate to be associated with every development in the field of environmental law in this country. And I drafted the 1983 ordinance. I helped in the drafting of the 1997 ordinance. Zahid Hamid is here. We worked together in bringing out that particular act. So Pakistan has a state-of-the-art framework law. Constitutional provision, none. State-of-the-art framework law, we have a legislation that identifies the Pakistan Environment Protection Council, Pakistan Environmental Protection Agencies, EPAs in the provinces. There is space given for the development of environmental impact assessment as a condition of every development in Pakistan. There is also the setting up of tribunals that have come in through the PIPA 1997 Act. And it's really a model framework law that countries could look at to see where they want to go if they are serious about carrying this commitment forward. So in terms of the laws, we are on a scale of 1 to 10, we are at 8 or 9. Institutions on a scale of 1 to 10, we are probably 7. We also have many things. We have tribunals, we have sectoral laws in mining, forestry, in wildlife, fisheries, and each of them livable legislation. The only problem is that of enforcement. Now, so you have this framework, legal and regulatory framework, but again, implementation has been a huge issue in Pakistan, and I'd really like to flag another big challenge at the moment before I go on to the good news in Pakistan. The challenge here is the 18th Amendment. See, as the respected Chief Justice and the Vice Chancellor identified, environment knows no geographical limits. It's difficult to contain environmental issues within a country, within a region, and Pakistan has tried in the 18th Amendment to say that the Federation will have no role in environmental issues, which means the many multilateral environmental agreements, MEAs as we call them, the ability to negotiate issues on climate change, you will be very severely handicapped. So I would join respectfully with the Chief Justice's call for a possible revisit of that reorientation that we've tried to bring about in the 18th Amendment. But let me begin to say that while we have the laws, while we have no constitutional provision, Pakistan has been blessed with two factors. On a scale of 1 to 10, 9, the judiciary of Pakistan, and on a scale of 1 to 10, the media of this country, and but for these two allies, Pakistan would not be where it is today in the sensitization of environmental protection. I have had the privilege, as I've said, of being associated with most developments on the environment in Pakistan. And the year is 1993, 1994. There is no provision in the Constitution. There is no framework law at that time. There is nothing except general provisions that the Chief Justice mentioned in the Pakistan Penal Code. And yet, the Supreme Court enables a petition that I filed on behalf of a pregnant lady in Islamabad who anticipated that the high voltage electromagnetic grid station to be located near her house might be a possible danger to the health of a future born child. So here is a dilemma. There is no certainty that the child that will be born will be subjected to that possible disability. There is no provision in the Constitution. There is no framework law. So I stand before the Supreme Court and I find the moment I open my mouth that the Supreme Court is the best friend that the environment will have ever had anywhere in the world. And the thesis that I want to submit is this: there are many countries in the world that have done as much in environmental protection, but there is perhaps no judiciary in the world that has done so much with so little. There was nothing for them to base their work on except for compassion, except for a good understanding of what Pakistan needed and what civil society needed and what the poor people of Pakistan needed. So the case is Shala Zia, and we were able to prevent the construction of these grid stations through the intervention of the Supreme Court. And I think one of the happiest days of my life when that kind of legitimacy to environmental causes came in Pakistan. And we've not looked back. Every decision on the environment, even in constitutional matters like the Benazir case, the Supreme Court has cited Shala Zia. I think the Supreme Court has been very fond of citing Shala Zia, is proud of Shala Zia, as we all are, and it even cited Shala Zia in the Benazir case to outlaw surveillance on telephones and bugging. So that's the concept of the right of life that the Supreme Court of Pakistan has evolved. It went soon after Shala Zia. There was a mining case in Kyora, aspect of water. Poor people down in the valley were not getting clean water to drink, and they went to the Supreme Court. no right to water, no rights in the Constitution, no framework law. The Supreme Court appointed a commission. I was charged to head that commission, so we went to Kyoda, we looked at the salt mines, and the message that came out of that was, I learned very early on in life that you really don't have to be confrontational to achieve results. So I announced a public hearing. I took this commission with me. We announced a public hearing. We sat on the mouth of the salt mines, the coal mines. And we got the citizens from the valleys to complain about health problems they were having. And the owners of the coal mines said, we had no idea that this is what we were doing. They didn't have any idea. I said, it might be the recommendation to the Supreme Court to close your mines because your conditions are not satisfactory for human work. They said, can you give us some time? And I said, how much time will you need? They said, give us a year. I said, can you shake hands on 6 months? And they said, can you make it 8? I said, let's do it at 6. So we shook hands at 6. I reported to the Supreme Court, no confrontational order, but in terms of the agreement between the parties against which the relief was directed, there was a settlement. So this is the Kyoda salt mines case. I can go into the High Court decisions in Lahore. I see Justice Mansoor Ali Shah is here. He was a comrade in arms. We took on many issues together. We took on the issue of clean air in Lahore. Again, a commission was appointed. He filed a petition there, and a commission was set up. I was again asked to chair it. And what we do is we turn to the best expertise in Pakistan for that particular issue. Clean air, solid waste. We call up universities, we call up civil society organizations, we call up experts. And believe you me, and that's the good news, there has never been an occasion, and I think Justice Mansoor will testify that anybody said no to our request and to work gratuitously for the work of the commission. So we had the Clean Air Commission in Lahore, we had the Solid Waste Management Commission in Lahore, and in each we had scientists, we had parliamentarians, we had civil servants, we had government servants, we had the mayor, and we all sat on a table like a family should, no confrontation. And the first requirement that I impose on the table when I'm the chairman is that I will not hear I or you, we will hear we and us. We are the same family, so let's change the vocabulary. Civic, transportation engineering, hygiene through this particular work. So the superior courts of Pakistan, to whom I want to really pay a homage, I want to dedicate the tremendous encouragement that the superior judiciary of Pakistan has held out to environmental causes. I've also mentioned that I've written a paper for this particular conference. It can be circulated. I've given the case law, I've given the citations, I've given chapter and verse, most of the things I'm saying, but I'll say just 2 or 3 more things. One, with respect to the allies. I want to repeat that in addition to the judiciary of this country, the media has played a monumental role in some of the successes we environmentalists have had. I tell you, the first writ petition on an environmental subject that I think was filed in Pakistan was with respect to the Margla Hills. They were being denuded. A quarrying activities was being carried on, and they were cutting off the trees. So I spent 5 nights going through issues like aggrieved person, standing to sue, locus standi. It was the first environmental writ, and I walk into the court, and the first thing that the judge says was, Dr. Saab, why have you taken so long to come here? I closed my bag. I knew I had a winner. And he had been following in the media the issues involved in what was happening in the Margla Hills. So much credit is given to the lawyers for what they may have done, but what I want to convey to you is, in many events and cases, our job was done by the media. they created a very fact-finding kind of an analysis, and the work was. I'll just spend about a few minutes on the lessons, and that was the main part for the region, and I have them in my paper, and there are 10 do's and 4 don'ts. Let me rush through them in the next 2 minutes. The first is that if I had to help out the region in carving out an environmental regime, I would have a constitutional provision in the constitution of each country for the environment. I think it's a must. It helps prioritization, a constitutional commitment. I would encourage, as a second thing, an activist judiciary in each of these countries, because they really have made the difference in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Issues like standing to sue, locus standi, can be taken care of through a judiciary that shows the resilience to understand environmental issues. My third recommendation for the region is, please do not try to reinvent the wheel. If there are complicated environmental issues before courts in the SAARC region, please try the route of commissions. The Chief Justice talked about the commission also in Lahore Road Canal Bank case, which was another commission that I think was successful. I would also urge the participants from SAARC to look at 2 kinds of case law that have evolved from Pakistan. One is on the public interest doctrine. The Chief Justice of Balochistan, who's here, just a few weeks ago gave a landmark judgment. We call them all landmark, because he has prohibited the construction of shops in Quetta as recently as a few weeks ago on the ground that it's against Shalazia. So here is the public trust doctrine, which was also involved in the Lahore Canal Bank case. The precautionary principle came in from Stockholm, from Rio Declaration, and Shalazia is articulated the precautionary principle. Each country in the SAARC should be recommended to have a framework law, set up environmental impact assessment as a first issue. There should be sectoral laws in forestry, fisheries, and other issues. And the last 4 things is the support of the media, the support of civil society organizations. Here, IUCN and ADB that are hosting this particular event with the Supreme Court has played a stellar role in Pakistan. From the conservation, Pakistan conservation strategy to the provincial conservation strategies, and we are fortunate to have a large presence from IUCN, including the Vice President of IUCN, Javed Jabbar. So IUCN has played a very important role in Pakistan's economic environment development. Media, the right to information that has now come into the Constitution, I believe personally, will improve advocacy for environmental causes. It will help people. On the don'ts, I have, if there is one lesson to be learned from Pakistan, it is please invest in the capacity to implement. We set up the Environment Protection Agencies. We set up councils, we set up courts, we set up many things, but we didn't resource them. We didn't train people. We did not have scientists. We did not have technical data. We are trying to look at several issues with respect to the pollution of Ravi River, which is coming up before the High Court in Lahore pretty soon. And we are handicapped by scientific data. So Pakistan has gone wrong on not building the appropriate capacity. And my distinguished friend from Brazil is here. And I've said this without knowing that he was going to be here. And I've mentioned in my paper that of all the countries that I've visited, and there are many, many countries that I've visited for the environment, I have seen no country in the world that has progressed its capacity, that has built its capacity to monitor the environment as Brazil has done in the last 20, 30 years. I've been there since 1992, since the Earth Summit. So Antonio, a huge compliment with the leadership that you've provided in Brazil for capacity. Last 2 things. One, Chief Justice may be a bit sensitive. I think we went wrong. And I know we went wrong because the government did not provide the leadership in respecting environmental laws. And this is a very serious message to the SAARC countries, that I think we went wrong because while we had a law that no building could be built, no project could be built, no major work could be undertaken without an environmental impact assessment, our rulers in Pakistan and in the provinces have, with impunity, disregarded these legal provisions. So when we talk to private entrepreneurs, they say, well, it's a government project, the law is applicable to them, they don't do this, why should we do it? I'd raised this in the Pakistan Development Forum in 2006. The GHQ was about to be built. And my reading of the law was that the GHQ should have been subjected to an environmental impact assessment. So the military rulers didn't do it, the political rulers don't do it, so the masses don't respect the law. So the lesson from Pakistan is, you've got to start respecting the law from the top. My last two things, we did not mainstream women and youth. We tried. We couldn't involve them, and I think they would be extremely good, effective carriers of the message that we have for environmental sanity. 18th Amendment, I have already mentioned. I think I respectfully join with the Chief Justice's recommendation that we should revisit that. And I finally would say that the lesson that I've learned in my life, and as 37 years of litigation and work in the environment, is avoid confrontation if you can. Confrontational posturing does not help environmental causes. Work through consensus, work through integrating the civil society, experts, academics, scientists, and sit together as you would do in a family to find solutions for your projects. And I thank you, Chief Justice, for the success of this conference. I compliment ADB, I compliment IUCN, and I thank all of you for the time you've given me. Thank you.